Marilyn. Hello.
Yeah. Hello, how are you?
I'm good, Calvin.
Ernie?
Hey, when is the Saks building going to be demolished?
They're closing in June on the air rights, so I'm assuming right there, real soon after thereafter.
We are live.
Okay, everyone here needs to be here?
Everybody's here.
Okay, great. So then I'm going to call to order the Finance Committee meeting of the Parsippany Highland Park for Thursday, April 8th, 2021 at 4:03 p.m. Roxanne, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bernstein,
Here.
Vice President Kaplan. Oh, yeah, you're still Vice President Kaplan.
Yes.
Liz,
And President Ruttenberg.
I am here.
We have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is public comment for items on the agenda. So anyone wishing to speak will need to use the raise hand function in Zoom to indicate they would like to speak. The board secretary will call on registrants who have activated the raise hand feature in alphabetical order. Executive Director Romes, is there anyone from the public attending this meeting who wishes to speak and provide public comments?
no, there are no attendees.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval. Well, let's give it a second. Is anybody raised their hand?
No, there's nobody registered, so
Oh, okay, great. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the Finance Committee meeting minutes from March 17th, 2021. I reviewed them and they appear to correct. So I will entertain a motion to approve the Finance Committee meetings from March 17th, 2021.
I so move.
There's a
Second.
motion by President Ruttenberg and there's a second by Vice President Kaplan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion carries 3-0. Okay, next item on the agenda is the 2021 landscape service bid. Director Voss to present.
Oh, let me get my screen up. Okay. All right, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay,
I see you.
that's not gonna help.
we see, oh, there it is.
You can
Yes.
see it now? Okay, there we go.
You're not in
these-
presentation mode, but we see it.
In 1 second.
Be still my beating heart.
Doesn't seem to want to click into slideshow presentation. There we go. Okay, so the 2021 landscape services contract, back at the beginning of February, I brought both of our two maintenance contracts to the board for review. The turf maintenance contract was approved at the end of March. That's more to the mow and go. The landscape services contract is the same 26 weeks, but it's a little bit more detailed. It includes some weeding, edging, cultivating, mulching, and it is 12 base sites. And this year we had 9 alternates sites, as well as some mulching. And then we also included the new NSSRA building to hopefully get some good bid numbers for them, which we did. These sites include the ones you see on your screen there. I won't read them all to you, but some of the big ones, the Aqua Park, because of all the grasses and the plantings in there, the Moraine, Jensen, some of the ones, they just require more detailed work. There's shrub beds to be detailed and weeded. We got very good. We got 2 bids back, and we got some very good pricing. Balance Environments, which has our turf maintenance contract, came in as the low bid. And with all of the alternates, they combined, the anticipated spending would be $49,209 and the 1 penny. I should have looked to see where the 1 penny was, but I didn't think about that. And our original operating budget this is an operating, is $103,700. So last year, just a review too, this contract was not undertaken. We did the best we could in-house throughout the year. With some success, we fell behind in some weeding and stuff, but we'll hopefully get back on track. So we'd like to go forward this year and approve the contract with Balance Environments, and plan would like your blessing to bring it to the workshop meeting for approval. I will point out too that this number 51,756 is higher than that 49,000. That is because of the NSSRA. So the overall contract would be for 51,756, and then NSSRA would then we would work with them and they would reimburse us with that. But to the Park District budget, it's the 49,000. Try to rip through that kind of quick, but any questions?
Questions, comments? Vice President Kaplan.
Kaplan is my name.
Yes.
Yes. Dan, why are we doing this for NSSRA with payback? Why don't they just do their own?
Well, they will end up paying for their own. It was just in order, we included them in the bid because they will get better pricing
Okay,
as
fair enough.
more sites. So that was the only thing. So we're not paying for it for them. I was just kind of facilitating the bid process for them.
Okay. That's all I got.
President Runberg?
You notice I raised my hand. Did it work?
No, I didn't even look. Oh, yeah, I did.
Thank you.
Okay.
Two questions. Again, I assume that we can just offset what we pay NSSRA against this money, so it's a bookkeeping entry, or everyone write checks on it. But does Westridge include the daycare facilities landscaping?
No, it does not. It includes around the backside of the outside their playground fence area.
Mhm.
We're still under responsible for that, but not anywhere inside their fence area and not their let's call it their parking lot entrance area. No, that is them.
But they have to maintain it. Just out of curiosity, would it have been more efficient for us to do it and then back charge them so that we have control over the whole site?
Yeah, probably. It wasn't something I even considered. I didn't even think about that. So yeah, probably could have been, yes.
I'm just suggesting maybe reach out to them, because
Sure.
if we have a contractor on site, it's going to ultimately be cheaper for everybody.
Yeah, sure. Could do
Okay,
that.
thank you. I'm going to take my hand down. Oh, I already did. Thank you.
Okay, very good comments. I have none. This seems fine. So I think we're okay with this one. Okay.
Then this will go on consent agenda on next Tuesday.
All right, I just lost the agenda. Hold on a second. What happened to them? Hold on. All right, Roxanne, sorry about that. I found it. Well, okay. Anything else on the 2021 landscape service bid? Nothing. Next item on the agenda is the patchwork at the Preserve of Highland Park. Manager Grill to present.
So Rebecca's going to pull up and share her screen here, but I'll kind of get started while she's doing that. So going back to when the Park District purchased the property, we had established a budget and for the project. This was before Oslad was even in the picture, and we had selected the paths at the time that we knew we would want to either remove or replace or were part of the project. Now, since that time, 3 years ago plus, we have gotten very favorable bid prices for the project, and with Oslad. And now as we're getting used to and more familiar with the area, there's certainly obviously paths that we noticed that were never part of the intended project, but we potentially have this ability to do so. So I see Rebecca's got it pulled up there, so I'm going to hand it over to her at this point.
Thanks, Dan. Well, we're happy to talk about this opportunity to kind of enhance the project. And I'm going to show you our journey here of where we are now, kind of with a brief update on the project, and then take a look at these sections of path that we feel like we could go in and take advantage of and get taken care of now while we're still in the field working. So I can get my computer to move, hopefully. Uh-oh. There we go. I don't actually know what I did just to make that happen, but there it is. So we have, since November, when you guys kind of last talked about this, we got our contract in place, and you had seen that original number of our funds available. And now this is juxtaposed with our projected expenses. Time to, as we analyze this, look at everything that we could think of that was out there ahead for us. We've had a few change orders for the contract, and I am very pleased to report that that actually puts us down by $2,000 on the total amount of the contract, which is always a nice thing. We've made some savings there. One of which was doing our own tree fencing. So there's some miscellaneous costs in that construction line that actually were quite a bit of savings, net savings for us as we did our own tree fencing. We have other expenses as we tried to think through what was lying in wait for us. There are items that were required to put in place for our OSLAG grant that aren't included in that construction number above, which is contractual with Team Real. So those are in there. We're going to have to do a bit of repair to an irrigation line that unfortunately got broken. And then just some other items that need to be incorporated into the project. So that is our conservative $80,000 that we have put down there as in other grant related repairs. So given all of that and taking it against our funds available, we project a contingency of $316,000 going forward. So feeling comfortable then with what we have perhaps available, and having taken advantage during the bid process to secure pricing for additional path work. That was one of the things that we had talked about with the board and our advisory committee is, you know, what if we want to do this later on? How are we going to get pricing? So this chart represents what the pricing looks like based on our existing contract. These are our estimates of the length, and we have in green, I will tell you that we have about 27,000 linear feet of paths on this property. We will be touching already with our existing contract about 10,800 linear feet, either in the green that you see, which is either repair or remove or new pathway, or else we also are removing some paths that we feel are redundant or not really taking us places we want to go. So already we're touching about 39% of the paths on the property. But looking at, as Dan said, that there were opportunities to create better access or maybe nicer experience going to some of our amenities. We came up with this prioritized list and the accompanying map to show you what we're thinking. We've been out and analyzed these, and we have chosen to recommend two ways. We have 1 through 8 sections, 1 through 8, priority numbers 1 through 8 of $101,000, and then we have kind of separated out some higher ticket pathways that aren't exactly central to the park experience, but might be nice to include or to include in the future. So those are the 9 and 10 that you see there. I hope you're able to kind of see the map okay. I'd be happy, or Dan would be happy to answer any questions you have immediately about the paths that we have chosen. Those are in blue. We have H and A are particularly ranked high. They're areas that are highly traveled. That's by the shelter area. We want to get the bridge so that it's accessible. That's up in the top right there. J is part of our connector trail connections. E is near a main feature for the park, which is the sand play area, and also part of the main entryway path. C, of course, leads us to our North Pond Pier overlook. So that was our thinking for those. And this is a couple pictures of some of the conditions of what we're talking about. Not terrible, serviceable, but it would be a nicer experience if we were able to take advantage and make these fixes. So the summary of where this takes us, again, restating our projected balance contingency. If we went with, on the left, sections 1 through 8, we are adding yet another anticipated cost, which is the recreational trail program. Has some cost associated with us that we will have to pay out. So we're estimating $50,000. So there you see below it, the 101,000 we talked about for sections 1 through 8, leaving us with a contingency of 165,000. If we did make the decision to do all of those paths, then our contingency would be the $89,200 on the right. So we are asking for the Finance Committee's discussion and approval to take this to the board as part of the consent agenda for approval next Tuesday.
Okay, is that it, Rebecca?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. So I think what I wanted to, before I turn it over to my other board members, I think when we focus our questions or comments, let's focus on also whether we should do sections 1 through 8 or sections 1 through 10. So I'll start with President Ruttenberg now.
You're muted. Sorry.
So that's the reason why. Okay. All right. I think, let me ask a couple of questions, Rebecca. Mm-hmm. Again, you've lived with the project, you and Dan and our staff. We do the paths. What's left if we do all the paths? What is left for us to do to make, other than plantings, to make this the ultimate experience for Highland Park?
So we have a couple of future ideas. We've been working with Liz Gagola and the foundation to think about potentially enhancing the little South Pond with a boardwalk area, looking at an idea of a small event area behind the pole barn. And then I believe also we had included enhancing the shelter area.
Okay, if to interrupt, and I hope I'm not, once the paths are done, it's functional and it will be great for the community. And the future ideas are upgrades from that on a couple, 3 or 4 items that you have. So this would really be the tie-in to make it all the plus experience that we're looking for. Is that a way of saying it?
The path work is kind of a backbone to it, you know.
Thank you.
Yes, we envision that the amenities and the plantings and the sandhill cranes are going to be the feature, but this carries people to it.
I appreciate that. I think that I am all in favor of doing sections 1 through 10 so that we then are able to deliver the most meaningful experience to the people of Highland Park, which is our mandate. My issue is I assume we're not using permeable surfaces for these paths, or am I wrong?
I'm afraid to say that we are going to use, these prices are based on using asphalt. Partly these prices, partly the concern that in the floodplain we would lose other surfacing materials to the waters.
Okay. I am going to say, and don't let anyone hear me say this, I'm less concerned about the pricing than I am about the fact that given the floodplain, this is perhaps the best way to go. And if that's a fair statement, then I'm not going to have any reservations.
Thank you.
Can I add one point of clarification? I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page. The green that you see on the map is what is already in the plan, the construction plan. The black is not going to be new, or it's not going to be touched. It's the existing path work it's in good condition. It's in fine condition. So there'll be no work done to that path. And the blue is what we're recommending on the screen here. So just when we say all the paths aren't going to be new, because some are in good enough condition to just leave as is. And it would be extremely costly to replace all the paths.
No, I appreciate that. And while I would like to say outside of the floodplain, maybe we should spend the money for permeable. That may be something we have in a future budget where we replace these things 10 years from now. I don't have anything else to say about
You're muted, Cal.
I mean, Vice President Kaplan, I'm unmuted. Vice President Kaplan,
We can never mute you, Cal.
you know.
All right, Barney took most of what I had to say. But I am all, if this is what we need to finish this project and to do an A job, I'm all for it. But my question is, when we've had one of our first meetings over this, we had the cross-country coach was here talking about getting involved with the paths and directions of the paths. Has he had any other say in this? Has he come back to any of this? Is this taking
Yeah,
potential cross-country racing into account?
yes, yeah. And forgive me, I'm not remembering his name.
Mr.
Mr.
Booty.
Booty.
Yes, Mr. Booty. Yes, we met, we've talked and we've met on site, and the cross-country path is meant to be like a mown trail. So that will be included as we get to the point where we have no construction happening. So when we get to that point, he and I have met and we've looked at some alternatives for how we could create a nice running way for the students. And then that could do dual purpose as kind of a cross-country ski trail.
And what does this do to the overall timing of this project's completion?
That
Does-
is something that we need to, we'll need to
Does it
discuss
kick it
that.
out?
As far as, yeah, we'll need to discuss that with our contractor. Dan, do you have any thoughts on where that heads?
Brian, I'm sorry, I missed part of your question. It waffled there. I didn't hear what the question was.
So what I was asking was, I'm all for the additional paths, but what does that do to our current potential anticipated completion date?
Oh, okay, gotcha.
If we even have one.
It shouldn't, we don't anticipate much of a change at all. Really, what is somewhat important is as they're working from the north to the south, once they kind of come down and literally looking at the map and kind of work its way south, they don't want to have to go back up. So it shouldn't change. Once we give this to them, they know we're talking with you and trying to get some more. So once they'll be able to give us a little bit more information, but initial talks was it wasn't too much of a setback. It's just how much manpower and equipment they'll need to both remove anything we add in blue, and then just increase their the asphalt trucks to come in.
Okay, I'm all for it.
So while he's on mute, it's up to
Still
Cal.
muted. Okay. All right. Nothing else, Vice President Kaplan?
That's it.
Okay,
Let's
great.
get it done.
So Brian asked my question regarding the timetable. So I only have a few other questions. Have we explored grants for this at all? And if we have, what's the result of that?
Well, part of our trail work is working off of the OSLED funding. So I guess the short answer is we have not yet looked at that. We had looked initially at potentially doing fundraising for Section F, which we now call the Riverwalk, or possibly Brian's Riverwalk, depending.
I like Brian's Riverwalk.
Yes, Brian's Riverwalk. And so we thought, that could make an interesting appeal to people to restore that pathway, and potentially then if we package it that way, perhaps there'd be, with the addition of some restoration along the sides or whatever, maybe grant funding coming in that way. But that's kind of as far as we went with that thought.
And Cal, I think just to add to that, staff has pursued grants up to this point, but now that we're at this point, any grant we would pursue would basically mean we won't do it, and then we have to wait and see if we get the grant. And so we could say no to all this and then try to apply for grants, but it would mean that we would not have it done with the construction.
So what you're saying is that if we have not applied for any grants, but if we decide to, it would significantly delay the project.
Oh, yeah. This would not be able to be done, and we would have to do it like 2022 or 2023, and we won't even know if we would get grants. But they did, like as Rebecca said, OSLAD is part of, partially trail work, and so grants were pursued over the past 2 years already. We just haven't pursued any more since this has come about.
I was kind of looking for a yes or no there, Brian. So I get the answer was yes, right? It was significantly delayed.
Yes, we've looked into grants.
Okay, great. So then with regard to budget, is this our rank order 1 through 8 and then 1 through 10, have they been budgeted?
So that's what you see on the screen there. So when the bid went out, we put in alternates for to do potential path. Rebecca, you can go back to
This one?
that one there.
Guys, I gotta grab this.
We had we had an alternate, so we got the pricing. So the totals you see per section there would be, right now there are estimates, so we'd have to give them to Team Real, and they will, and we've done measurements, we've measured them twice, so we may be off by a foot or two here or there, and we would get for sure. So these are pretty close to the estimates of what, these are the estimates and pretty close to what they're gonna be. But we will nail down once we hand this over to them and get it official.
So my question is, what did we budget for this?
Right. So this slide begins to lead us there, where our funds are available are up at the top. We take our projected expenses, as many of them as we can think about, and we have our projected balance there. So by virtue of that number coming out of the balance, that's the budget.
So if we approve 1 through 10, is there anything that will be shortchanged or will to be delayed because we've added those additional 2 items?
We would still have almost $90,000 in contingency.
Okay, so that contingency would go towards any overruns for this project or potentially for other improvements to the park?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, last question. I know we talked about this way back when, and I'm going to ask the question again. I mentioned you kind of hinted at this, but I think you were thinking about this in a different context. I'm talking about accessibility, ADA, handicap accessibility, especially with the bridges. Is that anything done with regard to that?
So the bridge was, yes, you have, you have asked, and we are aware. So the bridge that is in question by the Legacy Club, it has a big dip on both sides. So that was not part of the original bid, but that little section there would be addressed in this.
So what does that mean? So that means so that it would become more accessibility by improving this?
And then portions of the plan of the original, what you see in green, some of that is already addressing accessibility as well. Many portions of those So not every path throughout the entire site will be accessible, but there are portions that take you to some of the amenities that are. So that's
Okay.
what many of the green is there.
Okay, so I think that's very encouraging. I know that some, it means I haven't walked the paths in a while, but my last recollection is that some of the paths were kind of chopped up, which would make accessibility difficult for someone who's potentially in a wheelchair or something like that, or has mobility issues. So I appreciate the fact that this will be a vast improvement. I would like, in the future, when additional funds free up, that we set a goal to make the entire trail system accessible. Okay. That being said, I believe it's the consensus of the Finance Committee that we would recommend to the Park Board that rank orders 1 through 10 be authorized to be done. I think that's the consensus of the committee.
Yep.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Okay, that's our consensus.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Yep.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, next item on the agenda is the 2021 Hidden Creek Aqua Park Operational Plan. Director Carr to present.
Okay, give me 1 second here.
I'm just going to do a quick intro while he's pulling this up.
We know who Mitch is.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
No.
Yes. We just wanted to, obviously Hidden Creek is opening this summer. And we've told the board that as of April 1st, we would come up with our operational structure, and the pricing and structure will be in the summer brochure. So this is a sneak peek for the Finance Committee to see if there's any feedback, and I will let Mitch take it away.
Okay, thanks, Brian. I'm hoping you just see the presentation, correct? Am I good there? On my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. As Brian said, you might recall, we gave an operational plan kind of sneak peek back in December based off of guidelines at the time, and noted that our timeline for planning Hidden Creek started really with April 1st, given that we're about 8 weeks out from opening, and developing a plan with the guidelines that are in place as of April 1st. The Aquatics team has developed this plan. Certainly the state guidelines are the guiding principles here. PDERMA and our safety coordinator, Mark Good, has helped us with the interpretation of those guidelines. We've also discussed our plans with our IPRA Aquatics Roundtable and our neighboring districts. So this plan is certainly fluid. It may evolve throughout the year as either the guidelines change or as staff assess operations in the real time and better understand our community tolerances within the guidelines. So I thought I would first start off by just giving a high level summary of where the guidelines are as of April 1st as it relates to swimming facilities. These guidelines are provided by the Illinois Department of Public Health. Maximum capacities for swimming facilities are set at 50%. So if we look at Hidden Creek, just a normal maximum bather load capacity, that's 1,000 bathers. So it would be 500 bathers as the capacity. However, group size in the guidelines play a bigger impact at Hidden Creek, and it actually plays a bigger role at most aqua parks that we've talked to. So group sizes in the guidelines can be no larger than 50 people. And within those groups, you can have multiple groups. You just have to be able to keep social distancing guidelines in place for the group of 50. And the groups have to be 30 feet apart in distance and have that built in at all times. So groups at Hidden Creek for our open swimming would be defined as groups that are on the deck. And I have a diagram that kind of shows how that would lay out here in a second, but that's kind of important to understand. It would be groups that are placed on the actual pool deck. And because of these groups and the placement of the groups on the deck, we're actually looking at maximum capacities at one time of 100 bathers. So you'll also notice that within the guidelines that due to the very nature of the activity being in water, that face coverings are not required while you're in the pool or when you're traveling to and from the pool or any of the other water features. When you're seated at your lounge chair, as long as you're with members of your same household, you don't need to be masked. As far as our staff goes, our staff would be required to wear their face coverings at all times, unless they're up in the stand, which being up in that stand would keep them a guarantee of 6 foot apart, as well as if they're in the water. Otherwise, they would be wearing face coverings. So how this impacts operations to our open swim. This overhead shot I thought might depict that impact a little bit better. Due to our restrictions, having that limited capacity, we would have to manage everything through a reservation system. Now, we use reservation systems in a lot of other parts of the district, so this isn't a new concept, certainly to the community. And with COVID, we're using reservation systems quite often. The reservation would be a 2-hour time block for your visit. They can be made up to 3 days in advance. Due to those restrictions on the group sizes that I talked about, we would have to zone Hidden Creek. So you can see here, these yellow lines, really, you can follow my cursor here, it will separate into zone 1 and zone 2. And our 30-foot buffer I was talking about would be in between these yellow lines. Again, important to note that the zoning is specific to the pool deck and not the water and play areas. So in this picture, if I was sitting in zone 2 and I wanted to go interact with my child over in the splash pad area, I could do so. And then I would just return to my zone for seating purposes. Let's see here. Sorry. So the layout that you see on this picture is the standard layout at Hidden Creek. This is about 225 to 250 chairs that are on the deck. Given our limitations on capacities, we'd be cutting that in half. So that's, similar to the state guidelines of 50% capacity. We'd be putting out about 120 to 140 chairs. We would be placing people in pods. So pods would be done in groups of 2s and 4s and stationed 6 foot apart. I think maybe this area here gives an example of maybe what a pod would look like. So you've got a group of 4, you'd place maybe these chairs a little bit further up, and you'd have a group of 4 and 4 or a group of 4 and 2. And we'd be doing that throughout the whole deck. The red marks that you see here, located in these 3, are examples of where you would be required to wear a mask. So these are areas where you can no longer interact with the water. So for example, up in this area, this is obviously the entry exit area. If a patron is also going back into the bathhouse, if they need to go to customer service, at that point, and these would be clearly marked lines that they would have to now put a mask back on. Similar down here, this is towards the concession area. There's also bathrooms back here. Again, no longer able to interact with the water. So you would be putting your mask up when you're in these designated areas. The guidelines also require us to have distancing guidelines put in place for areas such as like our water slides and our diving boards. So these are areas obviously that have lines that can develop. So we'll have to have a established plan for managing that line. So for example, right now in the big slides here, there's a stairwell that goes up. Managing that line includes obviously not only having somebody up top here, but also managing the whole line and having placement of things like, stand here 6 foot apart all the way up and down. So that is something we're having to add as an additional staffing requirement this year per the guidelines. Our splash pad is going to have a limitation of 20 patrons at one time. And lastly, our concession area, we will not run this year. This is mostly due to a no response from our concessions RFP. Again, we've talked to a lot of districts that got a similar no response. There's a whole bunch of different methodologies people are trying to do. One of them is one thing that we're considering, which is to do vending service and allow people to bring in coolers. We would do cooler checks just like we would at the beach. And we're also exploring the opportunity for maybe a food truck to come, particularly on weekends. So this is how the current schedule is planned based off of the operational guidelines. Our season, again, would be the traditional Memorial Day through Labor Day. And you'll notice that the weekday schedule starts during summer break. Obviously, while the shoulder seasons are in play with schools in session, we're just not open from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. But for the entirety of the summer, we would have our traditional morning lap swim. These are going to be 1 hour reservations. And per the guidelines, we can allow to have 2 people per lane. Our aquafit classes would come back. During the summer break season, our internal camps would be taking the block from 10 to 2. That's the traditional time that our camps are typically there. But again, because of the guidelines and the limitations, it would be closed to the public and only our camps would be utilizing the space from 10 to 2. We're not going to be able to accommodate external camps this year. Our open swim time would then open back up with 2 time blocks in the afternoon and evening. And we do have a lap swim community on weekdays in the evening. There's a heavier user group. So we did want to offer another 1 hour slot in the evening to accommodate the evening lap swimmers after work. Lastly, you'll see here during the weekday, we do have the Highland Park Aquatics Club, which will be a new rental to HPAC, but not new to the Park District or the Rec Center. They've been renting space from us for several months now and have had a long-standing relationship with the Park District, of course. They're really in desperate need of space and continue to be. There's still restrictions on being able to access the high school. So they are looking to have weekday weekday reservations, rentals. So we are going to accommodate them. On weekends, we would again have the morning lap swim time. We're offering a rental party reservation time slot. Something that we've noticed with the opening up of our facilities is that rentals are becoming very big interest. And the feedback we've gotten is people are looking for environments to host small gatherings outside their homes, to celebrate life events that maybe they haven't been able to do over the last year. And they do feel comfortable doing that in a private controlled environment. You add into this that Hidden Creek was already a really heavily used destination for pool parties. And it was that time slot that is listed here, this 10 a.m. to 12, that it was the heaviest use for that. So that's why we're going to be offering that again this year. Then we would open up our open swim with 3 time blocks. And that last private rental, that's a after facility closure. That's something we've traditionally offered. If a private rental isn't secured on that day, the facility would just close as normal at 7 o'clock. So our current pricing doesn't really look that much different than what we preliminarily talked about in December. It does include not offering an annual membership this year. This is consistent with many other districts. Wilmette, Northbrook, Deerfield are a few around here that are not offering a membership, and it's just due to the limits on capacity. We will, however, be offering a full season lap swim pass. So this pass would get you access to both Hidden Creek and the Rec Center for lap swim purposes during the lap swim designated times. The Rec Center aquatic members would automatically be enrolled in this pass, because traditionally our Rec Center aquatic members do get Hidden Creek as part of their membership. More than likely, the vast majority of those Rec Center members buy the aquatic membership for the lap swim. So we think this is a good benefit to continue to do that. We will have to put a limit on the number of lap swim passes that we sell, again, just because of capacity. Right now we have that set at 150. There won't be a day pass option for lap swim at Hidden Creek. We're going to try to have a lap swim option at day pass lap swim option at the Rec Center. If we feel like we could manage it at Hidden Creek, of course, we could always open that up. But at this point right now, we want to keep that to just the pass holders only. For our open swim, we'll be offering the day pass option. In addition, after considering that there's not a membership option, and certainly we know that there are many families and even individuals that like to visit the aqua park several times throughout the summer, the costs to just always buying the day pass doesn't look as attractive. So we put together what we're calling a summer family fun pass. And that is a 10 visit pass, and it allows for a lower cost per visit option targeted towards families that want to really visit the park multiple times. So based off of our pricing plan and the guidelines that are in place right now, staff started to do some modeling on what revenue might look like. In our early modeling, which we're taking into consideration all the weather cancellations that go with a facility like Hidden Creek, and it looks like we will be able to meet our budgeted fees and charges revenue budget. We know we won't have concessions, and that's a $7,000 loss of budgeted revenue, but we do plan to make that up with the the Highland Park Aquatics Club rental. The only area we won't recover on planned budgeting for revenue is our external camps, and that traditionally brings about $20,000 of budgeted revenue in. So finally, as I mentioned, this plan it's fluid. It'll be influenced by guidelines. If we hit the bridge plan and or phase 5 and it allows us to consider a membership, we will be able to implement a mid-season or late season membership pass. The dates that I list there are more or less kind of deadline dates for us to make those decisions, because we obviously would have to implement it. We might have to change our staffing structure a little bit. So those give us kind of the deadlines to make those decisions. So this is my summary right now, where we're at with our plan. There are a couple things coming up. Obviously, our brochure is going to be coming up. So we wanted to have the finance committee review what you see, ask questions that you might have on operations, and certainly the pricing piece, that's going to have to go into the brochure. So we want to take any feedback that you have on that or suggestions. So I'll open to any questions now.
Vice President Kaplan, are you tied up?
No, oh, I didn't realize I didn't turn my video back on. I'm sorry. No, I'm not tied up. Couple things. I'm not as worried about the losses. I mean, they're COVID related. They're not staff. They're not facility related. But the summer fun pass, the $70 fun pass, is that a punch pass? Or will each family member require a pass?
So it would be a punch pass in the way that a household would have 10 visits on their punch pass. But the way it works is basically you can sign up through the reservation system, and it would just deduct one from your pass.
Okay. So if there's 5 people in my family.
Wait, Brian, let me ask a question that's relevant to this. Does a family need to get the fun pass for each member, or is it one pass per family that has 10 punches?
Yeah, you could do it as a family and just use it as the punches. So if you had a family of 5, what the head of household, let's say, that was signing everybody up, could sign all 5 up in the reservation. It would deduct 5 punch passes from that.
Okay.
One. Yep.
All right, and then can't read my own notes. The 2-hour time slots. Are we going to have a 2-hour time slot, and then that time slot has to clear the park, and then another 2-hour time slot starts after?
Yeah, and there'll be a break in between for the cleaning. That the guidelines. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that makes sense. I'd rather do it that way. Than it makes it easier for staff than timing everybody and trusting people to leave at the end of their time slot.
Correct. Yes.
And then what is the cost difference? I don't recall what a yearly membership was last year.
Yeah. So in 2019, our individual membership was $130 for a resident. A family of 4, I believe, was about $270, and that kind of played into how we priced that family.
$7 a punch.
Correct. Yeah. How many visits do you think a member would actually come to the park under a membership?
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Ruttenberg?
Well, thank you. I know we're trying to do this by reservation only. But acknowledging that there's going to be people who are reservation averse, are we going to let people walk in if you're not at capacity?
It's a good question, Barney. Right now, we don't have plans for that. I think part of it is that we're thinking that there's such limited capacity that we believe we're going to be at capacity.
Well, okay, here's where I go into the
Wait,
grand.
Barney,
Yeah,
I think, I understand where you're going with this, but I think that could raise more problems when you've got a kid at the front desk having to tell a family of 5, it's full, you can't come in. As opposed-
but that's okay. And that's where I was going to the next thing that I was going to say.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. First of all, I think we should get one of those big highway style reader boards to avoid the people walking up to the desk, but before they even get into the parking lot, a reader board that says full or whatever the words are, or reservations only or something, so that we'll avoid the problem to some extent. And then if we are not full and somebody comes up, then there's no reason to turn away the grandparents and the grandkids who suddenly decide to go to the pool. And again, just like at the Rosewood situation, there are people who make a snap decision and are not going to go on their computer to make a reservation. They're going to say, let's go to the aqua park. And now if we have a sign saying full, don't come, or whatever you want to say, that's one thing. But we don't want them walking up to the teenager who's manning the desk and starting into a fight. But I think we should allow, if we're not at capacity, we should allow people to walk in. But again, I think we need some kind of appropriate signage to let people know they could.
And I think that signage has to include how many open slots there are.
Yeah, like at a parking garage.
So if a family of 5 shows up and we have 4 slots, they know it when they pull in, not when they've parked and walked up and trudged up.
It's just like the parking garages in fancy garages where they tell you how many spaces there are.
I also think we need to really get it out there in multiple email blasts in multiple ways for the reservation system.
Okay.
It was easier for the rec center because we knew the rec center users, but here there's not that same database of users.
Right. Let me ask a question that's sort of, our lifeguards on the chair are not wearing masks. I totally understand that. Is there a protocol for how they administer CPR then?
So they do have protective barrier between them and the person that they're giving CPR to.
Okay. Just all of a sudden that thought came. All right. The concessions aren't open. I appreciate a food truck would be pretty cool, by the way. You said that you've analyzed the costs, and like Brian, this is a year that I'm not going to be focusing on. We're going to make money. We traditionally lose money at the aqua park, if I remember correctly. What is your projection of how much we're going to lose this year? How much are we going to lose? Because we have to have extra staff apparently, and there's the limited numbers. So what's the difference? What do you think the loss would be?
Well, right now we're budgeted at a $143,000 loss. And I think given the way the staffing plan's working out, it should be somewhere around there as long as we're hitting our revenue targets.
Okay. The 2 to 4 chair modules, people can move chairs around, I assume, if you've got 5 people in your family.
Well, the way the system is set up is somewhat similar to like a restaurant, and that's going to be kind of like how the staff and us trying to figure out through a little bit of trial and error. Like I was showing that one pod area that would have 4 and 2, so it could accommodate a family of 4 or a separate 2, or you might be able to accommodate a group of 6 in that area. They still might be 6 foot apart, but we don't want people like picking up and moving like a ton of chairs into one area, because it might go beyond the numbers that you should have in a group. So at this point, that's why we're also talking about, instead of just 100 chairs out there for 100 people, of providing lots of different opportunities. So there might be some empty chairs available, because we'll have a lot of different multiple options to try to accommodate as much as we can, the 2s, the 4s, the 6s, the 8s, all of that kind of thing.
Oh, okay, because again, I'm envisioning the family of 5 and there's 4 chairs.
Right.
Okay. Is the day pass, remind me, is the day pass, it's $10 for a resident, that's per person?
Correct.
And we have an age limit? The kids under 20 get in free, or?
No, it's under 4 are
Under-
free.
Okay, so we have to lie about the ages of our grandchildren so we can get in for free. Okay. All right. Family, I understand, is the $70.
You never do that, Barney.
I know, hey, you know, I will tell you the problem. You might want to lie, but if you say, well, he's 5, he'll go, no, I'm not, I'm 6. You know, you can't get away with that. 2-hour time slots, I understand. I think I understand the operational issues. And again, I think I'm going back to the reservations makes sense for a lot of people, but there's going to be open slots. We should let people in. That's my only real concern. Okay. I think it's a great plan. We're serving the community, and you know, it's a trying time, but I think we have to do it.
Thank you.
I agree with the comments. I just with regard to the scheduling, based on, you know, obviously with the you know, what I've been reading and seeing in the news regarding the vaccine, have we seen over at the rec center difficulty with seniors scheduling times or anything like that, because they just have lack of computer knowledge or the ability to do that? And what's our experience there, and how's that going to apply to for example, the walkers, who people like to walk in the water? How we can deal with that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Cal. I think early on, we did have some challenges, and our registration team certainly helped people kind of walk through that, talk through that. And we would have that staff capability to, you know, kind of like the help desk per se, that could try to help people walk through it. I think once people do it, they get used to doing it. But, you know, I agree with you, and I understand, you know, that learning curve does take a little bit of time for people to get used to making reservations online.
I mean, it's something to think about. For example, like with the golf course, you know, they encourage you to schedule a tee time online, but if you could physically call the golf course and they could schedule a tee time. Maybe that's something that we should look at at all our facilities, where we would have people who sometimes are challenged with the ability to use technology that gives them the ability to call someone who can assist them to system to schedule a time, whether it's for the water park or the gym or wherever. I mean, that's something, I don't know if that's been an issue, but, and Barney's about to say something.
Yeah, I'm jumping in on that, Cal, because, you know, as I think both Brian and I were saying earlier, we probably, a lot of people are not going to be thinking ahead about making a reservation for the water park. It's going to be, in many cases, again, the seniors with grandkids, spur of the moment, the kids come up, yeah, let's go. So that's why we're saying, let's have that board out there that's saying, you know, closed or full or 10 slots available and let people walk in.
Yeah, I'm thinking more about, because, you know, I'm a lap swimmer, so I see that there's, you know, in the morning, like, for example, my mother used to be a lap swimmer there. Now she had the ability to use technology, but there are people in their 80s who are going to, you know, go to these facilities who may not necessarily be, you know, it's easy for them to do it online. And these are the people who are going early in the morning, so there's not like the sign wouldn't be relevant in that situation because it's not during open swim. That's something that, I mean, something you should think about and how to be more, to address our senior population who may have difficulty with technology. Otherwise, I have no other comments. I think my fellow commissioners covered it. I think it's exciting. I think it's, I'm looking forward to being able to access it, and I hope we have nice weather and a warm summer, so everyone can take advantage of it.
And we can get tacos in the parking lot from a food truck and, hey, have a real good time.
Okay. Is there anything else on this agenda item?
No.
Okay, great. Next item on the agenda is the Hidden Creek Aqua Park heater replacement project. Update Director Carr to present.
So I'll just flip the slide here, and this is an update from our last Finance Committee meeting. As we discussed, we decided to release a second bid on the replacement of the pool heaters to determine the cost of just replacing one of the two units. As we had mentioned, operationally, one of these units is in much more dire need than replacing both. The bid results for replacing the single unit are listed in the column called Project Big Number 2. As you can see, kind of as expected, just about everybody came in at half the cost. The third bidder on this list was significantly under that half the cost, but our lowest project bid being $32,695. As a reminder, the capital project budget for this was $50,000. So what staff's recommendation to the Finance Committee is to accept Recreonics project bid number 2 and defer placing the second unit until 2022. So we'd replace one of them this year, budget to replace the second one next year. If we would get consensus from the committee, we would place this on the consent agenda at the April 13th workshop meeting.
Do any of the commissioners have any objections to that?
Yeah, let me ask a question. Did we get bids? So bid number 1's for both of them.
Correct.
And as you said, there's approximately half, so there'll be no, except for just-in-time pool and spa. That's rather odd. Is the second heater, are we going to run into the problem about, oh gosh, the second heater went out mid-season?
They're both, of course, aged units. They're needing to met their useful life. Operationally in 2019, the one that we really need to replace, we had a lot of problems with. It went down a lot. We did a lot of work on it. The other one, not as many problems. It's just, certainly it's at its end of its useful life. We could have some problems with it, but I'm probably less concerned about it than just making sure we get the one replaced for sure.
Okay, but if we know we're going to replace it next year, and I know it's when do we have the money, etc. Aren't we just better off getting it done and be done with it?
We certainly could. I mean, there's obviously the efficiency piece to it would be to do both at the same time. I think part of this was it did come in over the budget significantly, and just the unknowns of 2021 was why we were recommending one. But from an efficiency standpoint, it certainly would make sense. And we absolutely, I think you get one more season out of this other unit, and we're going to be needing to replace it next year.
Well, I would think get it off our plate, be done with it. Knowing that we're going to spend the money next year, we're just accelerating that one expense, and maybe if we do both, we can get a little bit better price if we go back to that contractor. I'm just thinking there could be a failure of that second one this season, which means we'd have to then run out and buy another one, and that might be a problem on good pricing. So I would think we should do both. That's my only comment.
Vice President Kaplan?
I agree with Barney. If it's a couple of years apart, we don't have to do them both. But if you're going to do the second one next year, you might as well do them both. Not only for efficiency, but I guess we'd get better cost savings with the heaters if they're both new than if one is new and one is old.
Okay.
It just makes sense. If it's one season apart, it just makes common sense. Just do them both now and get it over with.
Brian Rhodes, would that require us to do any type of amendment to the budget, or do we have that flexibility to do that since we only budgeted $50,000?
No, I don't think we would need to do an amendment, not unless the entire capital fund went over budget by more than 10%, which at this point, we have some projects that are under budget. And this would not be 10% of the total capital fund, so we would not have to.
And can these replacements be completed before Memorial Day when the pool opens?
Yeah, with the workshop meeting approval, we think we can get everything in by Memorial Day.
So it sounds like it's the consensus of the finance committee that we should do project bid number 1 and with the lowest bidder. Is that the consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I think you got our consensus.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the 2021 second quarter project updates. Director Smith to present.
Stop sharing here.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm going to share my screen.
Whoa,
here.
what happened?
I was waiting for that. Yeah, I was getting a little too shabby. I figured it was time to clean up.
Okay.
The fun is over for now.
Okay.
I think you look very handsome, and I like the trim beard.
But I tell everybody, you can always come back.
Yep.
All right. So I'm just going to provide a little bit of an update on Q2 capital projects. So back in January, I had shared a similar spreadsheet talking about all the Q1 projects that we would be starting. So this is a list of projects that we are just getting underway with now that we just wanted to share with the Finance Committee, see if there's any questions, confirm that everyone's comfortable with us continuing to move forward with these as planned. So just to go over the spreadsheet here, as you see the first column's listing the project, then that's the budgeted amount in column B, and then our tier system in column C. Column D is when we're starting it. Column E is important. This is when, if this project is going to require board approval, when we would anticipate to bring it to the board, and then when we're wrapping up. So the first 3 are our park-related projects. They're all asphalt projects. It's either resurfacing or recoloring some of our courts to maintain those. Those would all be done together in one bid, in our asphalt bid. Then the next couple projects are Centennial Ice Arena related. We have a drainage project where we are looking to address some water issues on the northeast corner of the building. And then we have our facility renovation planning project. And I would like to pause here for a minute. We included this because we wanted to provide a little bit of an update on this project. So this is the project, this is the planning phase of the larger renovation that we're looking to do at Centennial Ice Arena, Greenprint related project. And as the board is aware, unfortunately, the Park District did not receive the park grant that we applied for this project. And so now we are looking to move forward with it. However, we're recommending right now that we don't kick off the planning for this until a little later this year, as we would like to be a little further along with the Westridge Center project planning, as gymnastics is being discussed as part of that. There's a potential for the gymnastics to relocate. And we feel that it's critical that we have a better understanding of where gymnastics is likely to be before we move forward with planning, seeing that that would provide an additional space in the building. So we are looking to likely target July for kind of the kickoff of planning for this phase of the project. Nonetheless, we are meeting internally with staff and having a lot of discussions about what we'd like to see happen here. We've also had the Highland Park Giants approach the Park District with a request, part of the renovation, to have their own locker rooms. So we've been having some of those discussions as well. If there are any questions, I'm going to move on to the other projects.
I've got a quick question.
Yeah.
Does the, wait, you're scrolling out of my question.
Oh, I scrolled too high. Sorry.
No, it's still there. The Deer Creek Racket Club tennis court resurfacing.
Mhm.
Is that something, and I don't recall, that we do annually, or is it because of damage to the floor?
No, it's not because-
It's my understanding that when some roof work was done, I don't remember if it was painting or work, that the ladders and scaffolding caused damage to the floor. And if that's the case, are we gonna go after that contractor to recoup some of that $75,000?
So this is not related to that. So you're correct. That did occur with a painting related project a few years back. And that was covered through the contractor, and that was corrected already.
Okay.
However, you can see a little bit of the divots in there. This will,
You can still see a lot of the divots.
well, the good news is this will basically eliminate that. So that was essentially patchwork where only those areas were redone and then recolored. And I think some of it has settled a little bit. So to answer the first question, this is something that's done periodically, similar to our outdoor courts. However, seeing that there aren't the same elements, it's not done as frequently. So it'll be a patch and recoloring of the entire courts.
All right, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Centennial Ice Arena, I think you want to correct the spelling, but
Oh, I forgot to do my spell check. I
but
knew somebody was gonna catch me.
no, that doesn't bother me. Have we started conversations with any architects on the project? Do we know who we'd like to use?
Yes. Woodhouse Tanucci is the architect that we were having discussions with. As part of the OSLAG grant application, we needed to have some basic floor plans and some items put together. We worked with Woodhouse Tanucci on that. And then we did also get an understanding from them of what the cost of this phase would be if we were to utilize them, and that's this $150,000.
Okay, so then I think it would be, could you share those thought plans so that we can get an understanding of what maybe we're looking at, share it with the board, please?
Sure.
I mean, obviously they're just something for the OSLAG grant, and I understand that, but the Highland Park Giants, are we their home ice?
Yes.
Okay, and are they suggesting that they will contribute something toward these locker rooms?
We've had preliminary conversations with their representation. They have interest as it stands today to have a dedicated space for their locker room use, which would allow for them to store their equipment day in and day out at the facility.
Yeah.
We have, as I said, we have had those conversations. We haven't really dug much deeper in terms of cost or what their fundraising capabilities are as of right now, but we have begun to begin the dialogue with that.
Okay, I think it'd be great if we could work with them to make sure that we're their home ice. But again, I don't want us to spend our money to give them a locker room.
Barney, I've been contacted by by members of the Giants, whatever they're the club. It's a hockey club for the high school. What their concern is that their better players are leaving the system or not playing high school ball. They're going to play club because of they feel that one of the items is the facility and the lack of the ability to really have a home there. So what they're looking for is do their own fundraising to support the construction of a locker room, an area where they can watch tape and other things to really make this a home for the high school team to help promote their program and also promote Centennial Park. So I've been contacted by 2 members of that club, which I obviously advised our director Rome's about those conversations. He knew about that this is interested. So my understanding is they're looking to do the fundraising to do this. As a question is, and I don't know the answer because my kids weren't hockey players, is how we shoehorn that into the Centennial, but that's something that will be talked about with the renovation process.
Well, you got a wonderful area that's a gymnastics ice studio that.
Well, they're not really looking at that area because we're looking to do other, since we've done some planning, planning, we're looking to do other things in that area. But for example, and Chris or whoever won't go into more detail about this. For example, like the the shop. I think we don't have a tenant right now for the shop, and we haven't had one for a while. And that space could be repurposed. So there's other places that there's abilities to do it. So my suggestion is that I let the staff pursue that with the Highland Park Club and see if that can be done. And then we can talk about it more thoroughly once we get to the planning process.
Not having people from the Highland Park Giants contact me, I wasn't aware of any of this, and sharing information is always very helpful. And that's why I asked to get a copy of the preliminary plans that were drawn.
Yeah, fine. That's fine. That's fine. I don't know if those things included the locker rooms or not. I don't know.
It would not have. So the current plans would not include what I'll call a fifth locker room. As of right now, if you recall, we have 4 locker spaces right now inside the facility. The Giants dedicated space would be in addition to, so we would always need 4 general use lockers. The Giants would be a 5th.
Sure, totally understand.
They're trying to like copy the Blackhawks, like putting the Giants emblem in the middle of the floor, and just create that type of environment for their team, which I think is admirable. If they're willing to do the fundraising, God bless.
Yeah, and then we have the Falcons who'd rather have their F on the middle of the floor. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Don't step on the Indian. Remember that. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Now, I don't know if it's proper for finance, but I'll ask it anyway. What does this do if we put the Giant logo and we make this the Giants home to the Falcons and the Falcons ice time, or is it shared? Will it be shared the way it's shared now anyway?
So the structure of the facility would not change, meaning we would still have, the various logos in ice, meaning on the playing surface and things of that sort. The Falcons would still have their logos on our walls and what have you. We're speaking specifically just to one dedicated locker space. No additional changes in terms of making the Centennial Ice Arena the Giants home, because in fact it already is. It's just making it more of a welcoming home, I think would be a way to put it.
Okay.
Chris, is that just for varsity, or are they looking at for both levels?
We haven't decided, and we haven't gotten down the amount of locker space they would have or need. But right now, I believe it was just varsity because it was the space in which we would have to allocate for 2 locker rooms for a JV and a varsity. But we haven't had in-depth conversation, and that may change based on pricing and whatnot.
Okay, keep us in the loop as things develop. That's all.
Okay. All right. Let's move on.
All right, thank you. There's a few more projects here. You'll see Heller Nature Center. We have a Kubota utility vehicle that needs to be replaced. We also have 2 projects at the Recreation Center. They're both in the gymnasium. One is a fan replacement, a lighting renovation. And then the last capital project for Q2 is an HVAC replacement here at Westridge Center. And I will say, as I mentioned a moment ago about the planning for Westridge, as we move forward here at Westridge Center, any of these HVAC renovations are only systems that are in dire need of being replaced. And we fortunately now have staff internally who can do a lot of this work. So for this project, it'll likely just be materials. The installation will be done in-house.
Super. Hey, Jeff,
Mhm.
Is there any chance that Kubota or a similar vehicle could be an electric or something so that we can, move into the better generation of preserving the environment?
Completely understood. It's intentionally not an electric vehicle because of its use at the Nature Center. It's something that's used on the trails, but it's also used quite a bit off trail. We use it to haul a lot of materials, gravel. We use it to haul wood chips, and we do a lot of areas off the trail. And for that reason, it's not effective. We actually many years ago had an electric vehicle for that, and we had too many troubles with it, and so that's why we did switch to this one. However, in spots in the district where we can have electric vehicles, we certainly have and do.
No, okay, all right. I'll yield to the fact that you can buy one of those new Hummers that they're coming out with.
Oh, I guess we could do that.
Yeah, it's only 70,000.
We'll add that to capital next year.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
do have one final project that it's not a capital project, but I do want to mention it, and that is the Park Avenue dredging that is included in the operational budget for Park Avenue, but it is a larger item. that we will be bringing to the Finance Committee at the next meeting. It's currently out to bid right now.
Okay, anything else? Anybody else have any other questions or comments regarding this item? All right, hearing none. Director Smith, is there anything else?
Nothing else with this.
Okay, next item on the agenda is other business. Director Peters to present.
Okay,
Wait. Are you in your office now or still in the conference room?
I am in my office.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, it's all good. We're all put back together again.
Good.
Happy to report. So, okay. So besides that, under new business, we just want to remind you that we have our next Finance Committee meeting on Thursday, April 22nd at 4 p.m.
What's the date on that?
April 22nd. It's 2 weeks from today.
April 22nd. Okay, great. Any other questions, comments, or anything else? Is there anybody want to talk about what's not on the agenda?
Yeah, we actually have one more item, and this is very, I don't know, hot off the press. So we were just made aware of some information earlier this afternoon as a follow-up to the beach management plan and addressing the bluff over at Millard. And so we just wanted to give an update to the Finance Committee since we have your attention this evening. So Jeff or Dan, I guess, if you guys want to give a real quick update on that, that'd be great.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so as everyone's aware, there has been some erosion along the toe of the bluff, a portion of the bluff over at Millard Park. And in the beach management plan that Smith Group had recently completed, one of their recommendations was for us to conduct a stability analysis of that bluff. And so basically the purpose of this analysis would be for us to get a better understanding of the unstable areas of the bluff. As Smith Group had explained when they had recently attended a board meeting, they said with the erosion at the toe of the bluff, we know that the bluff is now unstable and that it's going to want to right itself. We just don't really know what that correction might look like. It could be something really minor just on the face of the bluff. It could be something much larger that would even impact the top of the bluff and even up in the park. So the purpose of this analysis would be to get a better understanding of this. And it would also provide some concepts for ways we can move forward with stabilizing the bluff. So staff have reached out to some firms and we're still kind of finalizing quotes, but as it looks right now, it's likely going to be within the $20,000 range to conduct this work, which, as I mentioned, would lead to some concept plans for moving forward with stabilizing that bluff. Seeing that this work is not budgeted for this year, staff reached back out to Smith Group to get their opinion as to whether or not we should conduct this work now, or if it could actually wait till next year once it's budgeted. So Smith Group's opinion was based on activity that may occur at the top of the bluff. So essentially, they felt that if the district was comfortable limiting access to this area at the top of the bluff along the area where the erosion is, then we could wait. However, if the district did not want to have this area fenced off over the next year, then we should move forward now. So I will say that there are areas up along the top of the bluff that are fenced. They've been fenced for some time. However, based on this new information we've now received, staff are reassessing the areas and feel that fencing may actually need to be extended to some areas that will impact and close off a portion of the path. So due to the fact that conducting this analysis next year would likely, waiting until next year, I should say, would likely impact access to portions of the park and possibly close off a portion of the path for an extended period of time. Staff are recommending that we actually move forward with this analysis now. So we're kind of looking for some feedback from the Finance Committee on this. As Brian said, this is something we just spoke to Smith Group, so this is kind of new information, but we are looking possibly for consensus to even proceed now.
I say we do it.
Vice President Kaplan?
Agree.
Okay, I believe that's the consensus of the Finance Committee.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is there any other items that need to be, you'd like to discuss? Staff members, commissioners?
I got one.
Okay.
Let me come back on camera while I'm talking. Hey,
Do
Brian?
you want to share your screen when you make this presentation?
No.
Okay.
Brian?
Yes.
Who's Mark Good?
Oh, sorry. Mark Good, he is our safety coordinator. Last year, in the middle of the year, I think I sent out an email. Obviously, he was brought on during COVID, so you never had a chance to meet him. But he's with us 2 days a week. We share him with two
Now
other
that you
partners.
say that, now that you say that, I remember.
Okay.
I just forgot his name.
Yeah.
So sorry, Mr. Good.
Okay, anything else? All right.
Move
hearing
to
this
adjourn.
vote, Move to
Sorry.
adjourn. There's a motion by President Rundberg to adjourn, and is there a second by Vice President Kaplan?
Second.
Yeah, there is a second by Vice President Kaplan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. The meeting's adjourned at